A disorder is like a collection of signs, symptoms, difficulties, and problems. And it's a disturbance of normal, and I'm putting this in air quotes on purpose because I know like the whole idea of normal can kind of be like a whole conversation in itself. So I just want you to know that I know that normal is also on a spectrum, but just for the sake of learning, we're going to use the word normal, okay? A disorder is basically a disturbance of normal and healthy physical, emotional, and mental function. A disorder is also a functional abnormality. What that basically means is that you can still live your life and appear healthy. Functional abnormality, right? So it's like, it's not normal, but it's definitely functional. And like, you wouldn't maybe even like know that there was a problem. Fitness and nutrition influencers and models, for example, there's just like a lot of disordered eating, a lot of disordered lifestyle stuff, just all over the internet and social media. And it's just like really just damaging in a lot of ways because it all just appears normal and healthy, right? But it's like actually like a lot of it's like very disordered. While disorder and disease can often be used interchangeably, a disease is more distinct and measurable, whereas a disorder may indicate a disease is possible, but there won't necessarily be enough clinical evidence for a diagnosis. Disordered eating sits on the spectrum of completely normal eating and an eating disorder. It can include symptoms and behaviors of eating disorders, but at a lesser frequency and severity. Disordered eating includes a variety of abnormal eating behaviors that oftentimes restrict choices and limit certain foods, amount of foods, or entire food groups. Disordered eating often comes with feelings of discomfort, shame, and guilt. It can also cause a sense of not being in control or being afraid of losing control. People with disordered eating generally don't have the same intense fears around gaining weight as those with eating disorders. Let's get into some signs and symptoms. Here are some signs and symptoms of disordered eating. Just kind of take note, take what resonates, take what doesn't. Even if some of these things don't resonate for you, I think it'll be really helpful for you to maybe now be able to see these signs and symptoms, maybe, you know, like in your loved ones, for example. Maybe for years, all this time, you always thought like that this person was like so healthy and they're just like so conscious and they're so on top of it. But actually what you had been observing all this time was actually disordered eating. Here we go. Avoiding certain food groups, skipping meals or fasting, calorie restriction or extreme dieting, self-induced vomiting, eating to avoid your feelings or to manage stress, eating out of boredom, AKA to me, it's really just not being mindful, engaging in any kind of binging or purging, feeling guilty after eating certain foods, irregular eating schedule and consistency, extreme rigidity in healthy eating, excessive use of supplements and hacks.
Insomnia and sleep issues. Irregular eating can also lead to irregular sleeping. Eating foods in a very particular order, cutting food into very small pieces and taking small micro bites. Elaborately separating food to avoid certain parts of the meal. Kind of pushing things around and not really actually eating it, isolating from friends or avoiding social activities and events that involve food. I'm talking a big game about loving food, but for some reason the actions don't match. It's a very common thing for folks with eating disorders to bake or cook for other people, but they don't eat it themselves. This is kind of like a sub thing of that. That's a very, very common thing. So yeah, not only like cooking and baking for others and then not eating it, but also in the same way, talk a big game about it. excessive over or underuse of condiments to make food taste bad, so you don't eat a lot of it. Exercising to cancel out what you ate. Chronic stomach pain and gastro issues. Feeling too cold or too hot all the time. Encouraging others to eat indulgent things but don't themselves. Let's talk about the dangers of disordered eating. To me, the way that you can think about this is like, here's what happens to you, your lifestyle, the people around you, the ripple effect of disordered eating, mental health issues, chronic anxiety, and obsessive thoughts, lack of food freedom and flexibility, long-term gut and digestion problems, hormonal issues, which can lead to stop periods, IBS, diarrhea, and constipation. With chronic disordered eating, you're going to be always getting weight fluctuations, which lead to more stress and anxiety, mystery illnesses, breakouts, and hair loss, chronic fatigue, and or mood issues, constantly taking in new information, feeling the stress of it all, malnutrition and all the problems that follow, social discomfort, strain on relationships and friendships. Have any of y'all experienced some of these aftershock effects of disordered eating? Let's talk briefly about, why this happens and how we kind of end up in these situations real quickly. And we'll try to run through this really fast. Okay? Obviously, fear. It's all fear. And trauma. So disordered eating is also a way to numb, control, or also avoid emotions. Modeling from parents, peers, even people we look up to, AKA podcasters, experts, wellness influencers, and so forth. Family, cultural, societal, and peer pressure. What we learned as good and bad. Oh, this is good for you. Oh, this is bad for you. Same thing, what we learned as healthy and unhealthy. So much programming around food, y'all. It runs so deep. Stress, sudden changes, unexpected life events. Feeling a lack of control in your life, which I just talked about. And then obviously mental health issues can cause it. But it can also be the reason why it happens as well. Low self-esteem, bullying, and depression, I'm sure that goes without saying. Perfectionism, obsessive thinking, need for validation, feelings of inadequacy, loneliness, isolation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Out of 13, which of these do you feel have been triggers for you? Why must we overcome it? Here's why we need to knock it off so that we can enjoy life to the fullest, to live a long and healthy life. I know that sounds so basic and cliche, but it's true, y'all. It is hard on your body to do starts and stops and stops and starts, restrict and binge and purge. It's hard on your body to prevent serious medical conditions so that you can have a healthy gut and immune system. And to be flexible in every way across all 5 layers of the body, y'all. Not just gut flexibility, food flexibility, but so that you can be flexible physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Are you really emotionally and mentally flexible if you're constantly obsessed about what you're putting in your mouth? Are you truly spiritually free if you're always worried about what's going to happen to you if you eat that donut? To connect with people and cultures all over the world. To find healthy ways to cope with our stress and emotions, right? Because a lot of times food is a way to cope with our emotions, whether it's eating our feelings or restricting ourselves. And to get to the bottom of these fears and anxieties, to really, really, really get to the bottom of it, because food is just where we play it out. Food is where it gets manifested. It's where we end up, again, acting it out. But if we can really get to the bottom of it, we can set ourselves free. Okay. Learn the basics. Like, that's really where you just need to start. Macros, blood glucose regulation, intuitive eating. And remember that food is nourishment. Okay. Keep it diverse. Your body has a lot of nutritional needs. Eat everything as long as your body can digest it and absorb it. Lastly, be grateful and lead with love, right? Like, again, you are what you eat. So if you are afraid of the thing that you're going to eat, you're literally putting fear energetically into your body. Okay? It is that deep. I know that sounds wacky, but it's real. Eating is one of the biggest joys of life. Approach food with love and gratitude, not fear and guilt.